And today we have Robot Dreams. Also went with Blade Runner today. Robot Dreams. I just thought it was appropriate. No? Right? I mean, I don't know. Did it sneak up on me? This is a weird one, right? Because the local art house cinema that I go to, they had a showing of this like way early this summer, right? And it was like, oh, early access screening. It was like one show time. And normally that means the movie's gonna be coming out like a week later, but it didn't. They showed it and then they were like, okay, cool. Then a month or so later, they were like, okay, now we have actual showings for this, but it's still limited. And then I go online and see technically this film first started making the rounds at the award festivals and shows last year, but now it's getting an official release that was actually earlier this year, but now that we're in summer, it's getting more of a release, but then it still wasn't a full I don't know if it actually made it to like national theatrical distribution channels and chains, but anyway, here we are. Fourth feature film by director Pablo Berger, or perhaps Berger, a director from Spain, so I don't know, however that would be.
We're here with the director of Robot Dreams, Pablo Berger. Pablo, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
He's a writer and a director. When I went onto his filmography, here's what came up. He's written and directed some films of note, but nothing that I am aware of. I'm not very familiar with his body of work. In terms of cast, for the first time, perhaps ever on my channel, there's not really a cast. I mean, there is if you go into the credits, because some people do make grunts and noises, and there's, I think, one word or a couple lines of short, quick dialogue, like a yeah or like a meow. Nobody's talking in this film. It's not dialogue driven, it's character driven. But yeah, I figured, you know what? I've been reviewing a lot of horror films as of late, just a lot of like spooky, ooky kind of stuff, so let's take things a little bit easier and do something a little bit more lighthearted, a nicer film that's more that the whole family could watch if they want. So if you don't know, Robot Dreams is an animated film that technically got a full US release this year, 2024. Pictures Utopia, you know, that whole deal where it's like an anthropomorphic animal society where everybody lives lives like we do, but with the little twists and animal nuances. And in this world, we have a little dog. We got a little doggo who's just living his life in his downtown New York apartment, just enjoying life. And I don't know what he does for work, but he's existing, eating his little TV dinners and watching his programs. And clearly, it seems to be alone and perhaps even lonely. Sees an ad on TV, orders himself a robo friend, and then a friendship blossoms from there. And I'll leave it at that. That's the whole premise, is that a dog buys a robot that becomes his best friend, and then they just live and experience and enjoy life together in New York and the surrounding areas and all that. It might be a short review. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this film. I mean, it's good. I think it's a good movie with really good moments. Hell, some of my friends that went to see it with me loved this movie. I really enjoyed it. It's nice, cute, sad, an emotional story about life and the nature of friendships. Or even really just the nature of friendships and relationships. And the film then chooses to focus on changes that drive all aspects of these forward. How between time and change, and friendships that you make, and ones that you move on from, and new people that come in and out of your life. Even without having a whole lot of dialogue, there's plenty of heartfelt moments. And even though it's a robot, even though his friend is different, I guess is the takeaway you could have from that, it doesn't make their bond any less strong, you know what I'm saying? The animation, though it's not my favorite style of animation out there, the animation is done very well. And I like one of the cutest things about this film that I always take enjoyment out of in films like this is the translation of our world to an animal world, and that comes with its own share of like humorous translations and applications and all that, whether it's names of iconic restaurant chains or businesses with animal puns attached, or how animals use certain tools or aspects of our day-to-day lives or transit or what have you that we take for granted or something, and just fun little twists on that, or little animal adaptations and how they function, cohabitate, eat, breathe, etc. It's all just animal movies that are supposed to be, oh, it's humans, but it's animals. The little subversions on all those little idiosyncrasies. There's definitely some needle drops in there, as you no doubt heard in the opening for this particular review. So there's some little classic musical earworms that'll get you and that become recurring musical and like character motifs in the film. So the soundtrack's definitely bumping. I mean, there are robot dreams involved in this, so there's some fun like dream sequence, like grandiose musical numbers, whether it's dancing or whether it's the environment changing or things becoming even more dreamlike. Through the medium of animation, this film brings all that to life very well and makes for a very visually engaging and stimulating experience, I suppose. Makes it sound kind of dirty, but you get what I'm saying. I don't know what much else there is to say. I mean, I can't really go into performances because it's just mostly the animation, so I guess I can credit the animation department once again for saying that these characters and their emotional headspaces and their states of mind and their emotions are all very well drawn. You can definitely tell what's going on. There even might be some moments where you get misty-eyed or shed a tear here and there. All that is translated very well via the artistry behind these characters, and yeah, that all comes across well. Literally the only cons that I had were that it was maybe not as emotionally gripping as I would have liked it to have been. There were definitely some emotional moments, but it wasn't enough to like really get me heavily invested in the story. And then I briefly touched on it a minute or so ago, but I can acknowledge the animation style in this film is great. It's very well done. You know, the animation style, the color palette, it's all well and good. As a guy who loves animation and varied animation styles, this particular style, it's not one of my personal favorites. I don't love it that much. It's not like Mars Express where I went in not loving the style and then was kind of won over by it by the end. But this one, like, I don't know, like cool. The animation looks good. I don't particularly love the style. Something about it feels maybe too plain for me, I guess. I don't know. It just doesn't feel super duper unique. Animal designs are fun and varied and colorful, and the world of New York is brought to life through this medium. So I mean, I'm not really complaining per se. I'm just saying, like, between quality of a film and personal enjoyment, quality of this film definitely cream of the crop. But if I had to say personal enjoyment, you know, I don't love the animation style. I like it. I didn't love our characters. I enjoyed them. I wasn't emotionally, intensely gripped by the narrative and everything, but I still was, you know, I was there for it. I was watching along and I was enjoying the time, and I was kind of invested and had my own thoughts and opinions. Honestly, I love how they handle the ending. I love how they wrap up the story. I know I'm nitpicking now, but there are like little plot holes. I'm like, well, why didn't the main character just do this? Why wouldn't they have just done this instead? Or what if they just approach this situation differently? I don't know. There's a lot of moments you kind of have to put that aside and just remind yourself, oh, I'm watching like, this is almost like a Saturday morning family cartoon, gather around the TV. Kids can watch this, it'll be visually stimulating. Adults can watch this and there'll be some messaging in there that adults have written in that they can connect to about life and friendships and the nature therein. It just lacked a certain wow factor for me. I think it's like I said, I think it's a good movie, a really good one. There's some great moments throughout. I personally just didn't love it. I've seen better animated films this year, and I'm sure that I'll see better ones in the near future. I don't know. But Robot Dreams is worth your time. I don't think it's in theaters. Like, I don't think you could see it in a theater. I think it's definitely worth renting and streaming. It's a good date night film. It's a good little, like, you know, oh, we'll sit down and have some pizza, watch this type of deal. It's a nice movie that's not, you know, not too incredibly emotional, but it's more emotional than you would think a movie like this would be from the trailer. If I'm being fair, again, quality of a film versus personal enjoyment, I would give Robot Dreams a very rock solid 4 out of 5. I'd give it a solid 4 out of 5. It doesn't really do things wrong. It could have done things exponentially better, in my opinion. But again, opinion, that's me. There's people out there that love this film. I think most critics were fond of it as well, most people in general. I 100% understand. And while I can acknowledge the quality of this film, for me personally, it doesn't scratch my brain the same way other similar animated films have in recent memory. But Robot Dreams is worth your time. That's all I gotta say about that. It's still a really good movie. Thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next movie review that I do. And goodbye, travelers.